Hello people, my name is Jatin Shharma. Welcome to Test Automation Academy. So in this video guys, we are going to discuss about the fundamentals of coding principle. And this is one of the most requested video by students. And whenever students usually learn a programming language, right, I often get this opinion that they say that learning programming language is difficult. It's not. Probably it's the most interesting thing that you'll ever learn in your life. And once you learn a programming language, you will be want to be so proud of yourself that you have learned something really interesting. Now, let me ask you this one question. What do you think is the reason behind a language? Why do you need a language in the first place? It's a mode of communication. If I want to communicate with you guys, I need to speak in a language which you guys can understand, right? So similarly, if I want to communicate to my system, I need to speak in a language which my system can understand. And that's where programming languages come into picture. If I want to communicate something to my PC, my laptop, my mobile phone, I would have to give instructions in the language which they can understand. So that's where a programming language can going to come into picture. The next question that I want to ask you is, how do you judge whether a person is fluent in a language or not? How do you decide whether a person actually knows that language? You're going to judge that by the way he's expressing himself in that language, right? Whether he's able to write things properly or not, whether he's able to speak it properly or not. That's how you decide whether the person is fluent in that language or not. Similarly, if I have to judge someone whether he actually knows how to write code, we judge them whether they are able to write clean code or not. That's the simple analogy that you need to remember. I hope this point is clear to everyone. So what is clean code? When we talk about writing code, guys, writing code is like giving instructions to the PC. Agreed? What is the reason behind writing a code? Yes, right, giving instructions, great. But the major reason behind writing code is development. Now, if you look at a real world development, like a building, do you see that once the building is created, they again redevelop it with some other features? No. Let's say the architect has designed the building and he decided that the building is going to have 7 floors. Once the building has been created, developed, the people staying in that building decided that, hey, we don't have so many people coming in this building. I don't want the first 2 floors. Remove it. Can we do that? The answer is no. You can't. Once the development of a building has happened, there is no way you can change it. Yes, the only thing that you can do is maintenance, coloring, fixing of the rust, cracks and all those things. That is the only thing that you guys can do. But architecturally, if the building was supposed to have 7 floors, now you cannot reduce it or increase it, right? But when we talk about development of a system or let's say an application over here, it doesn't happen in one go. It takes time. It is going to have iterations. It is going to be built in sprint. It needs to be agile. I hope these words sounds familiar to you. Now guys, whenever we are building any application or developing any applications over here, just let me give you an example. WhatsApp, right? So when WhatsApp started in 2011 or 12, it was just a simple messaging platform, right? You can just send messages to your friends and family members. You can create groups, share emojis, messages, audio, video, and all those things. But now if you look carefully, the intent of WhatsApp has changed. You can accept payment, you can put stories, there are filters, you can share stories to the Facebook post and all those things. You can do it easily. When WhatsApp was started in 2010-11, they did not have these features in mind. They gradually added these features looking at the business requirement. And you need to remember one thing. Your business and IT, they both go hand in hand. They both go hand in hand. The world will always keep on changing. There will always be new and new requirements that the world is going to need. And business is always going to try to fulfill that requirement. And for that, they need IT to come into picture. So as my requirement keeps on changing, the application that was created in the past needs to adapt to the new changes which are coming into picture. Remember, this is a very important point. Focus over here, guys. As the business or as the world keeps on changing, the business needs to provide the solution, and IT has to adapt to the new requirements which are coming into picture. Only then the company can generate revenue, right? That's the only way we can do that part. But how can IT provide these solutions quickly? That's where your clean code comes into picture. Now, when we talk about clean code, guys, generally there are some principles behind clean code, and I've just written it over here. When we talk about clean code, it has to be human readable. See, anyone can write code copying from your Google, Stack Overflow, some blogs, and put it in your application, and the code will definitely work. But a good developer will always write clean code. He's going to write the code which is human readable. Now, what is the meaning of human readable? See, if I write a code and if the code looks complex for a non-technical person to understand, then it is not a human readable code. The code should be written in such a way that even a non-technical person, when he opens your Java file, JavaScript file, can really anticipate what exactly the code is doing over there. That is what it means of human readable code. The second feature of clean code is it's going to be maintainable, meaning there is going to be proper organization, proper structure of your application, and any application will be created keeping extensibility in mind. What is the meaning of extensibility? Let me take you with the example of your automation framework itself. You want to run your test on Selenium Grid. Now there is a requirement that, hey, I want to run the test on browser stack also. Can I create this feature without making major changes in my application or in my automation framework? If yes, then you guys have followed the maintainable principle. The third is basically testable. Now, I have written it with different colors because in your automation framework, we don't talk about testable code. Generally, we talk about testable code only in the development piece of code. Technically, it means that all the features that you have written can be easily tested with the help of unit test. That's what it means by testable code. The fourth one is, it is going to be elegant. Now, what is the meaning of elegance? Is it the font that you're using, or is the indentation that you're giving? Probably the indentation, I'll include it over there, but not the font. Now, when we talk about elegance, it basically means it is simple to read. Okay, it does not look complicated when you start reading the code. It does not look complicated. It is well structured. That's what elegance means. Okay, so make sure your code has to be elegant. Do not worry, I'm just giving you a brief idea on all these things. Later on, when we start solving the assignments, you will understand it in much more better. And the fifth one, it should have a clear intent. A clean code is going to always have clear intent. What is the meaning of intent? What is the reason? Intent basically means the reason why you are doing something. So whenever you're going to write a code, there should be clear intent why you are calling a function, why this variable is created, why there is a conditional statement, and all those things. Everything should make sense in that code. I hope this point is clear to everyone. So whenever you're going to write a code, you should always remember these 5 major rules: that it should be human readable, it should be maintainable, it should be testable, it should be elegant, and it should have a clear intent. When your code follows these 5 principles, technically you have written the clean code. I hope this part is clear to everyone. Now, I often say that clean code is a mindset. See, you guys have learned programming language, right? But after learning a programming language, how do I improve it? By following clean code principles. So it's like, if you are following certain rules, you should always have that mindset that, hey, I want to follow these rules. So that's why applying clean code or applying clean code strategies and techniques, it's a mindset. So you have to make sure that whenever you write a code, you always follow these principles. And when we talk, as I said, when we talk about clean code, you can apply it to any programming language. The principles will remain the same. Principle never changes. You can apply it to any programming language. It's not going to change. Now that you have learned what exactly is clean code from a higher level, let's try to understand the benefit of clean code. Clean code saves a lot of time whenever you want to fix bugs or find bugs in your code. You can easily and quickly fix it with the help of clean code. The second is, it's going to be a win-win situation for dev and business team. And the reason I say that is, as I said, business is always going to come up with new and new requirements, and your developers need to develop those things. If my developers do not understand why certain code was written in the first place, they are going to spend a lot of time understanding that code, which we don't want. And I want to give them the flexibility to quickly make the changes in the application. So that's where, guys, it's going to be a win-win situation. As and when new requirement keeps on coming, the developers will keep on fixing it and adding new and new features without any issues. So it's a win-win situation. And the fourth one, guys, is going to be the readable code is always going to be an asset. See, new team members always join the team, old ones leave the team, maybe probably change the job, move to a different department, and all those things. These are common things that are always going to happen. So when new people join your project, it should be easier for them to contribute into the project as quickly as they can. If my code is complex and newcomers who are coming into the team, they find it difficult to understand, it's going to create a problem. Right? You have to spend time teaching them what exactly is the structure of the project, where they need to do the modifications. Sounds familiar, right? You don't want to do that part. So that's why, guys, clean code or writing clean code is always going to be an asset to your team, so that they can onboard into the project quickly and they can contribute to the project ASAP. I hope this part is clear to everyone. So I hope you have understood what exactly are the features of clean code and what are the benefits clean code can provide to a project. But the question still remains, how do I write clean code? And that's where, guys, the principles of clean code comes into picture. Now, there are a lot of principles that we need to cover, but for this particular video, I have listed down 7 important clean code principles that you definitely need to follow in your project. And I'm pretty sure that if you start following these principles, the way you are writing the code is going to be so much mature. Now, these are not rocket science or a very difficult thing to do. It's very simple, and one by one, we're gonna go through all these 7 principles. And I promise you that after watching this video, you will have a clear understanding of all the 7 principles that we're going to learn. Now, guys, the first principle is give meaningful names to your classes, variables, and your methods. Now, names are everywhere. You have a name, I have a name, and we refer to each other with the help of names. So whenever you are creating a class, variable, or methods, make sure that you give them proper and a justifiable name. Now, in my classes, I usually give an example that if a parent want to name their kid, they usually think a lot of time before they actually give a name to them. The same principle you need to apply to your classes, variables, and methods. Your classes, variables, and methods are created by you. It's your property, and you have to give them a name which is going to do justice for them, right? The name of these entities should give me a clear idea what exactly is the purpose of this method, this variable, and the class. I hope you're getting this point. The second rule says that the function should be small and it should only do one thing at a time. Now, what it means is that whenever you are creating a function is going to perform a task. So whenever it is performing a task, try to make sure that the code which you're writing in the function body is as small as you can make it. Now, for some companies or some people, a 40 lines of code would be a smaller function. And for some projects, even if you write a 10 lines of code in a function, it is going to be a pretty big function body. So there is always a way, or there is always a room of improvement in your functions body. So make sure you always find ways to reduce the number of lines of code for your functions. And the next point says that it should always do only one thing. That's it. As I said, that a function is always going to perform task. So imagine that there's a person and he's working as a scrum master, he's a team lead, he is doing the manual exploratory testing, he's also maintaining the automation scripts. There's a lot of tasks this person is performing. Do you think that this person is going to be able to do this job efficiently? The answer is no. Right? The same way, if I'm creating a function and it's trying to do multiple things, what is going to happen is it's going to make that function complex. And in future, it might get difficult to maintain that function. So please make sure that you always break the functions into different smaller functions and they individually perform only one task. The next principle says that use getter and setters to access data or basically your class variables. Now, this is basically the concept of your encapsulation. Encapsulation basically says that your class variables or your instance variable should always be mapped or accessed with the help of methods, and that's what are getters and setters. So in your classes, you should always bring the concept of encapsulation. There should not be direct access of any class variables or your instance variable outside the class. They should only be able to access with the help of getters and setters. The fourth principle is always follow solid principle. Now, this is, guys, a very interesting topic, and to be honest, a very complicated topic. If I just take it now in this particular class, it's going to get a little bit lengthy. So I'm not going to take this topic right now, but please make sure that you read about solid principle whenever you get time. If I get time, I'll definitely record one session for solid principle for you guys, which is going to give you clear understanding what is solid principle, how you use solid principle in your code. But one of a very important principle that I'm going to tell you of solid principle is single responsibility principle, which I just explained you when I was talking about functions. Single responsibility principle, the name itself says it. If I'm having a function, the function should only do a single task. It should not do multiple things. So please make sure that, so whenever you're creating a class or you're creating a function, please make sure that it follows single responsibility principle. I'm pretty sure, I'm just controlling myself that I don't go into this topic as of now, but in future, I'm definitely going to make a video on solid principle. The next one over here, guys, is exception handling. Now, whenever you're going to write a code, you might have observed exceptions coming into picture. File not found exception, null pointer exceptions, array index out of bound exception. These are just common exceptions. But whenever you're writing a code, you should always do proper exception handling. And also, guys, you need to sometimes create your own custom exceptions to make the code much more readable and maintainable. We'll discuss on that part, but this is something that you really need to have it. The sixth principle is a pretty simple principle, which says no comments. Now, some of the students or professionals have the habit of writing comments about what exactly this function is doing or what exactly this class is all about. It's a debatable topic, but generally always remember you should not write comments into your code. Your code should actually speak what exactly it is going to do. Comments are basically intent, right? You are trying to say what exactly this class is all about, what is this function going to do, what this variable is going to store inside it, right? But if I'm having comments, it is something that requires maintenance. Whenever my code is going to get modified or changed, I need to go back and edit that comment. It's an extra add-on work. And sometimes people forget to update the comment, and the same old comment which you had written 2 or 3 years back, it's still being used over there, or it's still kept in the code, which can create confusion in understanding the piece of code. So the thumb rule is always try to avoid comments. Always write code in such a way that is self-explanatory. That is what no comments mean. The seventh point is pretty simple: decompose conditional statement. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are thinking what exactly the word decompose mean. Don't worry, even when I was studying for the first time, even I was thinking what exactly decomposes. Now, basically, you might have a habit of putting the expression, the conditional statement expression, like if A is greater than B, then do something, right? And sometimes whenever you're writing a conditional statement, or you're going to put an expression over here, you put multiple conditions, right? You should not do that part. Instead of that, you should always create a separate function which is going to deal with the expression. I'll show you an example on that one, so don't worry. But these are the 7 principles that you need to remember throughout your IT career. As long as you're doing coding, these 7 principles will always come into picture. Whether you are creating a development code, whether you are creating an automation framework, or you are just maintaining a project, please make sure that you follow all these 7 principles in your everyday coding, okay? And you're going to do just fine. I hope this part is clear to everyone. So now guys, what we are going to do is we are going to solve a couple of assignments. So these are all the theoretical part which I wanted to cover before we actually try to clean code. So I'm just going to go through series of assignments which is going to have dirty code inside it. We are going to refactor them. We are going to clean them and convert a dirty code into a clean code. I hope this sounds interesting to you guys. So without wasting time, let's dive into that part. Okay guys, quickly. So whatever we have learned about clean code, the principles, the features, the benefits, all those things were all theoretical. Now is the time to implement whatever we have learned on some examples. So without wasting time, we'll try to look everything, what all principles that we know, we'll try to use them in sample piece of code and convert a dirty code into a clean code. Now, I want to talk so much about each keyword over here in this video, but I can't. So I assume that you might have some basic understanding about classes, methods, public, double, and all those things. I'm pretty sure if you are aware of it. Now over here guys, I have a class over here which is called as rectangle. Let's try to read this class for a moment. Now over here guys, if I try to go inside the rectangle class, you will see that there are 2 variables. Now repeat after me. If there is a variable inside the class, if there is a variable inside the class, that variable belongs to the class, or you will say it is a class or an instance variable. For simplicity, you just take it class variable. They also mean something else, but as of now, you just call it a class variable. Similarly, you will see that there is a variable created inside a method. So repeat after me. If there is a variable inside a method, it is going to be called as a local variable. And this over here, you can call it, just be a little bit advanced only, just call it instance variable for now. Okay, this is what it means. Now try to read the variable h and w. Now we are in a class rectangle. The name of the class looks fine. Okay, you're talking about a rectangle. H and w, you can anticipate over here that you're talking about height and width. But for someone who is totally new and does not understand anything about programming, for him H and W can be anything. He might get confused over here what exactly H and W means. So over here guys, what is happening, these variables H and W do not have meaningful name. So you have to give them meaningful name. The first principle is already broken over here. It does not have meaningful name. Now let's go to the calculate method. If I go inside the calculate method, I see double temp is equal to 2. This is into, for people who don't know, 2 into h plus w. If you look carefully, 2 into 2 times the height plus width, that is basically the perimeter of a rectangle. So that is what it means. It is trying to calculate the perimeter of rectangle, that is 2 into, what is this? H is what? 20 plus 30, and that is supposed to be what? 2 into 50, which is going to be 100. Great. So this is basically temp variable is actually trying to store what? The perimeter of the rectangle. Similarly, we are printing over here the value of temp, that is 100 is going to be printed, and it tells that it is printing the perimeter. Similarly, temp is equal to h into w. Here, height into width, that is nothing more than your area, and here it's printing the area. The value of temp is getting updated, the variable temp is getting updated with the value of area, and it's printing the temp value. See, the thing is, I had to explain you this method in order for you to understand what was happening over here. The intent of the method was I had to eventually explain it to you guys, and that's the problem that is coming over here. For any non-technical person who just understands rectangle, this would be really intimidating. So our job over here is to clean this dirty code of rectangle class and try to make it, something meaningful, something that can be easily understood. Now let's see how we can do it. So for you guys, I'm just going to write it first by myself, and then I'm going to show you what exactly the sample. I'm just going to put it in the screen. You can just check it later. So over here, guys, we're going to start with public class rectangle. The name of the class is fine. We don't really need to change anything over there. Now you see this double H and double W. H was height and W was width. So what I'm going to do is, these are class variables. Repeat after me again. All the class variables are going to be private in nature. All the class variables are going to be private in nature unless specified. Unless I am telling you that make this variable public, you are not going to make that variable public. You will always make that variable as private. So your access specifier is also missing. So you're going to give that access specifier. So let's write an access specifier. What did I say? The class variables are always going to be private. So just write over here private. This is what? Double. So just write double. You had written over there H. We are going to write it. Height is equal to. Look over here. 20, 30. It is what kind of a value? It is a integer value. So what you need to do is, whenever I'm storing a value, a hard-coded value is there, right? It's 20 over there. You are not going to write 20. You have to write 20.0. I know Java can easily convert it internally. Implicit typecasting is going to happen. Great. But you just need to know that you have to store data properly. If you're putting a value, if it's let's say a double value, you're using a double data type, so just make a habit of putting the 0.0 at the end. It's not going to take a lot of time. Similarly, I'm going to create another variable also over here. I'm just going to write over here private double width is equal to 30.0, and here you have fixed the names of these two class variables or instance variables. Now is the job of method. Now, if you look carefully at method, calculate method, two things are happening. Yes or no? It is calculating the perimeter as well as it is calculating the area. Just go back to the video. You might have seen that I have told that whenever you are creating a method has to be small. Is it a small method? 4 lines. Yes. But is this method doing one thing or it's doing two things? It is doing two things. It is calculating the perimeter as well as it is calculating the area of rectangle. You are not supposed to do these kinds of stuff in your code. So always make sure that your method is only doing one thing. So what we are going to do, guys, we are going to break this method into two parts. The first, we are going to call this method, let's say, as public void calculate area. And in area, here if you see, the variable is temp. Temp is again an ambiguous variable. It does not justify what temp is storing inside it. So you are going to create a variable specifically called as, what is this, perimeter. I'm going to create a variable called as perimeter, which is going to store the perimeter of rectangle. That's the formula, but with these variables we're going to keep it, and you can just print it, perimeter. Similarly, guys, you can create another function. Now I don't have space over here, but you can create another function which is going to be calculate area, and which is going to have the area of rectangle calculated and printed on the screen. I'll just show it on the screen so you can see it over there properly. I hope this part is clear to everyone. Now, one thing over here, guys, quickly. Is the value 20, is the value 30, is the value 20.0, 30.0, these values, these are constant. These are hard-coded values. And repeat after me one more time. Whenever there is going to be a hard-coded value, you are going to make that variable as a final variable. This is mandatory. Now, I really don't have time to talk about final in this particular video, but just to give you a brief about what exactly final means. See, guys, a variable is basically what? Varies. Variable means it is going to vary. It can store different values inside it. But if I'm going to have a value which is not going to change, if I'm going to have a value which is not going to be changed, then we mark that particular variable with final keyword. Final keyword basically makes your variable, final keyword makes your variable a constant. Part 1. It makes your variable as a read-only variable. Meaning I can only read the value 20 and 30, but I cannot update height and width over here. I hope this part is clear to everyone. So what all things we have seen? We have seen private keyword. All the class variables are going to be private in nature. If there is a hard-coded value, if there is something which is going to be constant, you are going to make that particular variable as a final variable. Your method is supposed to only do one thing. If it is doing two things, break the methods into two parts so that each method is only doing one activity. I hope this part is clear to everyone over here. Okay, this was the question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2 now. So now, guys, we have question number 2 over here. In this question, it's a pretty simple class. Again, we are just trying to make it a little bit better. We have a class called student data. The name is telling that we are talking about some student data. Over here, guys, we have 3 variables created inside the class are called as class variables. So we have 3 class variable: string f name, string l name, double marks. Okay, you can now anticipate that, hey, private is missing over here. Make the variables as private. What is f name? What is l name? What is marks? Doesn't make sense, right? Give them some better name. And the marks over here is 563, right? But you're trying to store it inside a double value, so you're gonna make it what? 563.0. Similarly, there are some comments written over here. What did I? Comments should be avoided. Here it is telling the method returns the total percentage of students of 7 subject. So now I'm trying to understand what exactly 700 means over here. If I go inside this method, percentage, double P is equal to marks divided by 700 into 100, and I'm returning P. What is P? You guys have anticipated that it is going to be percentage, but what if someone does not understand this part? What if someone does not understand what exactly P means? So you have to give a proper name to this guy. Similarly, what exactly 700 signifies? It is the total subject marks, or I will say out of how many subjects we have. So 700 is the maximum subject marks that is there. So what does 700 signifies over here? 700 is basically the total 563 is out of 7 subjects. So each subject is of 100 marks, right? That's what it means over there. So over here, guys, there is a lot of ambiguous, or I would say incomplete information in this particular class, which we can fix it. I want you to first solve it at your end, see how exactly you can clean this code, and then compare with the image which I'm going to show you in front of you now. Over here, guys, if you see carefully, the first thing, the name Ronald, Roy, right? These are all constant. The value is not changing. Make sure you mark them with final. These are class variables also, so we have made it private. The next thing is marks achieved. Rather than calling it marks, this is the marks what student has achieved. So the name has changed to marks achieved over here, and I'm giving it as 563.0. And this is what? Private final again. The next one is double calculate percentage. So instead of just calling it percentage, we are renaming it to calculate percentage, and inside that I am calculating the percentage. So double percentage variable, marks achieved divided by total into 100, and I'm going to return the percentage. Similarly, guys, I have created one more method over here, which is called as student info method. Now before I go over there, I'm going to mark all the variables which have been used in the methods. We have marks achieved variables and we have a total variable, right? These two values are consumed by calculate percentage method. But if you look carefully, there are two variables called first name and last name. This particular method does not consume it. So remember, this is important. If there is any variable which is not used, can never be part of your code. So I had two options over here, either to remove the first name and last name, or I created a functionality which is printing the student info. And now, guys, all the 4 class variables which I have created are accessed in either of these methods. So this is important. There should not be any unused variable in your code. If it is there, it's your responsibility to remove it. And if you are creating a variable, you are supposed to use it. I hope this part makes sense to everyone. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Now, guys, here I'm just taking the concept of your encapsulation. I have a class over here which is called as person. So I've created a public person class, and again inside this class I have a variable. The variable is what? Name. It is a class variable. Class variables are going to be what? Private in nature unless specified. So the thing is, whenever you are creating a class, it's your responsibility to encapsulate the class variables. Meaning, I have made this particular variable as private. So the moment you make a variable as private, you cannot access it outside the class. So how do I access this variable outside the class? You have to encapsulate this variable within methods. Okay, So what you're going to do is you are going to create getters and setters for class variables. And why do we create getters and setters for class variables? Because we mark them as private. That's the whole concept of encapsulations. Your variables and methods are going to be talking together. We are going to communicate to the variables with the help of methods. That's the point that you need to remember. This is the example of encapsulation that you need to remember. Please make a note of it. Okay. So this is how your code is going to look now. Public class person, private string name. Okay, and now I have created this set name method also. The last question for today. Okay, I really wanted to take more questions, but we are running out of time. So I'm just taking the fourth question over here, which is exception handling now. Over here, guys, I have created this class which is called as an account class. And account class, if you look carefully, things are started to get a little bit better. We have a class variable which is private final int. The name of the variable is also right, which says account balance, meaning in your account you just have 1,000 rupees and or $1,000, where whoever is watching this video based on your currency over there. And over there, guys, I have this method which is called as withdraw amount. Okay, I'm going to withdraw the amount. So imagine this piece of code is working in your ATM, okay, and you try to remove the amount, let's say 500. You're trying to remove 500 from your bank account and you already have 1,000. So if amount 500 is greater than account balance 1,000, is 500 greater than 1,000? No, it is not going to go inside the loop. It is going to go over here. It's returning me 0. So basically it is returning me some kind of a status code which can be used for further processing, right? That is what is happening over here. Similarly, let's say if I'm trying to withdraw 1,500. So amount is what? 1,500. Is 1,500 greater than the account balance? Account balance is what? 1,000. Is 1,500 greater than 1,000? Yes, it is greater than 1,000. So what is going to happen? It is going to go inside the if loop and it is going to return me -1. So -1 and 0. Basically, what is happening in this code is they are using 0 and -1 to handle whether it is a proper transaction or a non-proper transaction. If it is 0, it is a proper transaction. If it is -1, it is invalid or a wrong transaction. You are trying to withdraw money which is more than what you have in your bank account, right? So this is what we had to conclude, like after reading this much code. So it took a lot of time to understand this part. Can we make this code better? Of course, yes, we can make it better. That's what we are learning over here. So over here, guys, in order to make this piece of code better, you will introduce custom exceptions. Okay, you have to create your own custom exceptions. Do not return 0 -1. What exactly is this? So if you look carefully, the same method which we had in the previous slide, now over here, guys, what we have? I have a method over here which is called as public int withdraw amount, which throws insufficient balance exception. Is there an exception which is called as insufficient balance exception in Java? No. This is basically a custom exception created for the code. Yes, you can create custom exceptions in Java. Exception handling is another very beautiful topic. Now over here, guys, I have created this class called as insufficient balance exception. This method withdraw amount is going to throw what kind of an exception? Insufficient exception. When the amount you are trying to withdraw is greater than what you have in your bank account, than what you have in your bank account, it is going to throw an exception which is called as insufficient balance exception. So in your interview, here only I can ask you one simple question: what is the difference between throw and throws? Okay, so after watching this video, just go and read this part and you have one interview question completed directly. So that's it, what I wanted to cover in this video, guys, and I hope now you have an understanding of what exactly clean code is, what are the features of clean code, what benefit you get after writing clean code, and what are the principles of clean code. And I'm pretty sure that now if you start writing the code, there's going to be a significant difference of what you used to write in the past versus what you're going to write now. If you still have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also, if you want more examples, please visit our website. You're going to find more details over there. Till then, guys, take care, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye bye.